a lot. We're told that the president is very much in touch with people on Capitol Hill and Republicans, leaders on the Hill. His team is actively involved in these negotiations.
He turned out to be a left-wing liberal, just like Martha and you four ladies are. Here we are this week in the news on Sunday, and we've got 5 ladies trying to tell us how bad Donald Trump was.
Before we leave you this morning, we want to take a moment to celebrate our own Bob Woodward's
Shamefully
15th Alive Day. Hit by a roadside bomb in Iraq in 2006, he has made a remarkable recovery, continuing to report from around the world. And he and his wife, Lee, continue to raise millions for our veterans. We are so grateful for all you do, Bob, and for all those involved in your recovery.
A good man.
Thanks for sharing part of your Sunday with us.
But 5 ladies. Great Scott. No wonder the media has warped the minds of the citizens of America. Switching from Martha and the 5 ladies to Chuck.
Vaccines in short supply. It will be months before everyone who wants a vaccine will be able to get one. And with new, more dangerous strains hitting the U.S.,
this virus is mutating, and it's mutating fairly quickly.
Can the vaccine stay ahead of the virus?
I'm telling you, the darkest of the darkest days are yet ahead.
Oh, remember, Joe Biden was going to stop it in its tracks. That was his promise. But he's passed 40 executive bills, left-wing bills, that can ruin the country.
Are the Democrats about to give up on bipartisanship too soon? I'll talk to President Biden's chief economic advisor, Brian Deese. Also, party split, less than a month after the Capitol insurrection.
Oh, that's right. Try to blame everything on the Capitol insurrection.
Wasting the nation's time on a partisan vendetta against a man no longer in office.
Right.
And to oppose him.
What is being alleged and what we saw, which is incitement to insurrection.
Shame on you, Mitt Romney, for your lies. You've hated Donald Trump from day one.
Only 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach about his drive to return the party.
And those 10 ought to be ashamed of themselves, and Cheney ought to be removed. Thank you, Miss Green, for standing up for right.
About their own safety. Joining me for Insight and Analysis are Eddie Glaude Jr. of Princeton University, Amy Walter, national editor of the Cook Political Report, Republican strategist Al Cardenas, and Ashley Parker, White House bureau chief for the Washington Post.
All left-wing liberals, including you, Chuck.
From NBC News in Washington, the longest-running show in television history.
Shame on you.
This is Meet the Press.
Meet the press, meet the fake news. Chuck Todd.
In high-risk areas for catching.
Thanks to China's Communist Party and the Democratic Party in our own country, still wanting to cozy up to them with high-tech organizations and corporations and the World Health Organization, shamefully.
You said something that really stuck with me, so I want to show this screen. This is the efficacy rate of the first doses of the 3 of the vaccines. Moderna at 80%, Johnson & Johnson 72%, Pfizer at 52%. Again, all the first dose efficacy rates. Do you believe we are now at a point where we may have to call an audible here on how we distribute the vaccine?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I have been one of those saying that we need to make sure that we have both first and second doses of that and follow the FDA approval process. But let me say right now, we do have to call an audible. I think it's no doubt about it. The fact is that the surge that is likely to occur with this new variant from England is going to happen in the next 6 to 14 weeks. And if we see that happen, which my 45 years in the trenches tell us we will, we are going to see something like we have not seen yet in this country. England, for example, is hospitalizing twice as many people as we ever hospitalized at our highest number. And so we do know that if we look at these first doses, that in fact we can even get higher numbers than you just laid out by the time of the 3rd week after vaccination. So we still want to get 2 doses in everyone, but I think right now, in advance of this surge, we need to get as many one doses and as many people over 65 as we possibly can to reduce the serious illness and deaths that are going to occur over the weeks ahead.
If this decision, if the Biden administration agrees with your call here, they basically have to make this decision right now. The second dose appointments.
They do have.
Yeah, the second dose appointments basically have already begun or are beginning.
Well, you better
So
wake
they have
Joe
do
up
this right now.
to get him
Do
to
you
make the
think
decision.
Do you think as you know, look, everybody's nervous because there's no perfect solution here.
Oh no, but Joe Biden had it all. He had the solution. Remember his promises?
Well, I think it's going to be tough. I mean,
I'll kill the virus right now.
Now, you and I are sitting on this beach where it's 70 degrees, perfectly blue skies, gentle breeze.
Shameful
I see that Hurricane
Democrats.
Category 5 or higher, 450
They're too
miles
interested in
offshore.
impeaching
And, telling
and
people to
censoring
evacuate in that nice
President
blue sky
Donald
day is
Trump,
gonna be hard.
who we
But
should
I
have
can
kept
also
in
tell you that
office.
hurricane's coming. So I think we have to understand that because of this surge, we do have to call an audible. And again, we're not going to deny anybody their second dose.
But thanks to a corrupt system, we got Joe Biden and Kamala Harris
So we do know that if we
and
get
Hunter
the
Biden
first
and his
doses
connections
to
with
people,
China.
particularly 65 years of age and older, we can really do a lot to reduce the number of serious illnesses and deaths
Shamefully.
in this next big surge, which is coming.
If we don't do this, and let me paint for you one sort of nightmare scenario that I'm fearing, which is by the time that some of us get to the place in line where we're going to get a vaccine, that the vaccine available to me won't be able to deal with the strain that is circulating around this country. How likely could we be in that scenario, say, by the start of summer?
Well, I'm not sure that that's the scenario I'm most worried about. I think that the B117 or the UK strain is going to become the dominant strain. Unfortunately, that one has not shown its ability to evade the protection from the vaccine. But its ability to cause many more infections and much more serious illness is there. So I think right now that's the priority I would look at. When you look at the data on the other variants, we're very concerned about the ones from South Africa and Brazil that may, in fact, lead to evasion of the immune protection from either natural disease or from vaccine. But even if you look at the vaccine trials in South Africa, for example, what was missed in the J&J trial, no one who had the variant infection who was vaccinated died. So it may actually attenuate the serious illness and not just fully prevent it. So I think right now we have to concentrate on is what's going to be the surge. Imagine, Chuck, right now, at 120,000 to 130,000 people hospitalized at one point, we saw our healthcare system literally on the edge of not being able to provide care. Imagine if we have what has happened in England, twice as many of those cases. That's what we have to prepare for now. That's why I think we're putting forward. The other thing we have to do is just prepare people. We're all loosening up right now. We see the case numbers coming down. We all want to end our pandemic fatigue and our pandemic anger that don't believe the pandemic's even real. We got to turn that ship around too. We're really good in this country at pumping the brakes after we wrap the car around the tree. What we have to do now is also anticipate this and understand that we're going to have to change quickly. As fast as we're opening restaurants, we're likely going to be closing them in the near term.
How blind do you feel right now to the various strains that might be circulating? I mean, I've seen some epidemiologists say that, we don't know what we don't know because we've done such a poor job of surveillance. I know there's some fears that, we think there's a South African strain, a Brazil strain. People are worried about a Chicago strain and a Los Angeles strain. How worried are you about what we don't know and can't see right now?
I'm very concerned about that. But I think the good news is that I actually see action being taken with this new administration, unlike we've seen before. And so there really are efforts right now to, in fact, get us that kind of surveillance system in place as quickly as possible. And frankly, we need the Congress to pass the President's Relief Act because that'll help us also do more of this kind of work. So
Sounds like a
right
good
now, we're
Republican.
blind, but I'm more optimistic
Not
about
hardly.
data. But as you've
This
seen,
guy is
these viruses are
tied
more
right to the Obama
have actually caused
group.
us more and more surprises. And
Obama,
just expect
Biden,
the unexpected in the
Harris.
days ahead.
If you can't have a K95 mask or an N95 mask, would you double mask? I know you're a little concerned about some of the double masking ideas. What do you do if you don't have a K95 mask to use?
Well, when we talk about double masking, remember, what we're really talking about is just trying to prevent the virus from being excreted by me into the air or me inhaling the virus from someone else in the air. And it's both a function of face fit and face filtration. Think about your swim goggles. When was the last time anybody leaked at the lenses? They leak at the fit. And so what we're concerned about is that many of these face cloth coverings do have already compromised fit or filtration capacity. If you add on another mask, you may actually make it tougher for the air to move through the two cloth area, and then at that point it causes more air to actually leak around the sides, which actually enhances your ability to get infected. So I'm not saying that some couldn't be used in a better way, but at the same time there are many that may do more harm. Let me just say right now, one thing that's really to me very important is we see up to 25% of people who wear it under their nose. You know, that's like fixing 3 of the 5 screen doors in your submarine. You know, what's going on there? We've got to get people to start using these right. That would help right there tremendously.
Yeah, well, if you've watched any football games in particular, a lot of these coaches are the biggest ones who forget.
The smartest we could have made was what the 75 million people tried to say: keep Donald Trump at the helm, and he would have got it done.
Republican Party and the grip Donald Trump still has on the GOP. Most viewers are old enough to remember Kevin McCarthy, Mitch McConnell, and Lindsey Graham all distancing themselves from the former president.
Oh, nonsense.
Or maybe it's Mr. Trump's popularity with base Republican voters makes the heart grow fonder. Either way, it's made President Biden's efforts at unity on things like COVID relief difficult, if not impossible.
That's because he's incompetent, Chuck, and you're fake news and an ultra-liberal.
Called me this week. I gave him my view that I think it's important that it be bipartisan.
Retiring Senator Rob Portman, who also received a call, telling the Washington Post, taking a go-it-alone approach sets the wrong tone right off the bat. But to what degree can President Biden work with a Republican Party that has remade itself in the image of Donald Trump? Republican leaders have whipsawed from criticizing him just weeks ago.
The president bears responsibility for Wednesday's attack on Congress by mob rioters.
To courting his support.
Everybody across this country has some responsibility.
On Thursday, House Leader Kevin McCarthy made a pilgrimage to Mar-a-Lago to mend fences. Then there's Senator Lindsey Graham.
All I can say is count me out. Enough is enough.
Now Graham is leading the president's impeachment defense.
To my Republican colleagues, there is no way in hell we're going to retake the House and the Senate without President Trump's help.
Just 2 weeks ago, Republican Senate Leader Mitch McConnell
That's right.
was pleased by
Exactly.
the
The mob was fed lies.
Now, Senator, you jumped to conclusions before you even knew the facts. And you ought to be ashamed of yourself for doing that.
44 other Republicans voted to toss out the impeachment case as unconstitutional.
And you voted right there.
Supporting primary challenges to House Republicans who voted for impeachment, like third-ranking Congresswoman Liz Cheney.
She should be removed from her leadership position.
You can send a representative who actually represents you. And you can send Liz Cheney home.
And Republicans so far have been slow to criticize Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor.
And they should be slow. She's honest and standing up for her right to speak her mind.
Video surfaced in which she suggests 9/11 was a hoax.
The so-called plane that crashed into the Pentagon. It's odd. There's never any evidence shown for a plane in the Pentagon. But anyways, I'm not going to dive into the 9/11 conspiracy.
Saying the Sandy Hook shooting was a hoax and taunting a Parkland shooting survivor.
I carry guns for protection for myself, and you are using your lobby and the money behind it and the kids to try to take away my Second Amendment rights.
That's right.
Support on Facebook for calls to execute prominent Democrats.
They hate her because she's strong on the Second Amendment. You're the enemy, Senator Pelosi.
Joining me now is the director of President Biden's National Economic Council, Brian.
Tearing up the president's speech right on the floor of Congress.
And let me start with this. With congressional Democrats preparing the budget reconciliation process, and my apologies to viewers for the Washington speak there, but a way to pass your COVID relief bill with 50 votes, a simple majority. Why shouldn't Republicans who did want to work with you guys look at that as a way of saying, they're not serious about negotiating on a bipartisan basis? They already
Of course they're not.
To go it alone we don't really have much say here. Why should Republicans believe there's still room to negotiate?
Because we are in a unique moment of economic crisis, and it requires a unique response for everybody to come together. We saw that the economy last year fell more than any year since the demobilization after World War II. More than 1 million.
Thanks to you Democrats attacking the president and trying to impeach him the whole time. Shame on you.
Food to put on the table this week. This is a unique crisis. It's a unique health crisis, a unique economic crisis, and it's one that calls on all of us to work together with the speed that we need.
And you're really working together with 40 executive orders violating the civil rights of the American people.
Work together. That's what the American people are looking for.
Big tech closing people down on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter.
Just before you and I got started in this interview, a group of 10 Republicans
And
put out
fake media like Chuck here.
Just been alerted to it yourself. Essentially 10 Republicans, which we know is what you would need to avoid a filibuster and do this without having to use a parliamentary maneuver. They are going to unveil their framework for a COVID relief plan tomorrow, and they're requesting a meeting with President Biden. Your reaction?
Well, we've been engaging with members of Congress from both parties and both houses over the course of the last week or two. We'll continue to do that as we go forward. And the president has said repeatedly he is open to ideas, wherever they may come, that we could improve upon the approach to actually tackling this crisis. What he's uncompromising about is the need to move with speed on a comprehensive approach here. We have a virus crisis, we have an economic crisis. We have to get shots in people's arms, we have to get the schools reopened so that parents can go back to work. And we need to provide direct relief to families and businesses across the country who are really struggling here. So we need to act comprehensively and we need to act with speed, but we're going to continue to have conversations as we go forward.
Oh, why can't you do both? There was this idea proposed, and the White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki seemed to shoot it down. But let me ask you about it here, which is this idea. Look, you're preparing the groundwork for budget reconciliation. You know there is parts of your $2 trillion plan that does have bipartisan support. Maybe they're basically the money for vaccinations, the direct checks with some means testing. There's probably a $1 trillion deal you could do with 60 votes. Why not do that and then get the rest of it through budget reconciliation? Since the timing, it wouldn't, I don't think, have a timing problem here, would it?
We have a real urgency to act and to act comprehensively. You know, we're losing, we're seeing 1 million people added to the unemployment insurance rolls each week. And we need to act comprehensively. One thing we've learned of the past 11 months.
Yes, further into debt. Further into debt.
One element of this and wait and see on the rest is not a recipe for success. So we need to move forward comprehensively and we need to move forward with speed. And in that context, there's plenty of room for making modifications, including people's ideas. But we do need to act comprehensively here.
I'm going to put up some figures up on screen here. We had the first one, the $2 trillion one, of course, was in mid-March. A $900 billion one from before. You're proposing another $2 trillion here. Do you know when you add it all up, we're looking at $5.5 trillion in one calendar year, from March to March, assuming you get your $2 trillion
added to the national debt.
How much more do you think the government's going to have to pump in after you pass your COVID relief bill?
Well, the goal in putting together the American Rescue Plan here was to look at what is it going to take to finally have a comprehensive approach to getting us to the other side of this crisis. So if you look at the elements of that plan, be it the investment in getting schools reopened or the investment in a comprehensive vaccine distribution strategy to actually get shots in people's arms, this is our assessment of what we will need to actually get to the other side of this here. So we think if we act now and we make these investments, these are real investments, but the real question we have to focus on is, what is the cost of not acting now? Mm-hmm. And we've seen studies, the Brookings Institution just this week showed that if we don't act, growth could be 4% less. Moody's projected 4 million fewer jobs this year if we don't act. So we have to do big things here because this is an unprecedented crisis. but really the cost of inaction, the cost of failing to do this or delaying for another month or another period of time here, really outweighs the cost of taking this action.
I want to ask you a question about the
real economic.
You're worried about jobs, sir, and your president just whacked off 11 million jobs in the pipeline, plus many more beside that.
Economic security to that part of the economy.
So it sounds like you think short selling is bad for the economy. Is that something that should be legal?
Well,
And a stock market that is incorrect
and certainly understand fully
for the big corporations.
This particular episode,
Shamefully,
and the broader questions that
your
our
supporters
immediate focus
for
here is
Joe
on
Biden.
taking the action we need to put a floor under this economic crisis. Again, 1 million people a week are filing for new unemployment insurance claims. The urgency here is to take action to get them direct relief and to get this pandemic under control.
Brian Deese, the chief economist for President Biden. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your views with us. Thank you, sir.